Hey, welcome to Snowmobiler Television. On this week's show, we're going to start things off here in the shop where we're going to pit two sleds against one another in a comparison. This Ski-Doo XRS against that Polaris Matrix 850. Now, these are two of the best sleds in the business. And speaking of the best in the business, we're also going to catch up with John Sherrard at Accelerated Technologies to talk about suspension setups for the hardcore rider.
STV is brought to you by Yamaha, revs your heart. Polaris, think outside. Ford F-Series, Canada's best-selling line of pickup trucks for 55 years. Tough, smart, capable.
Whenever you have two rivals, the competition between each makes both of them better, and the snowmobile industry is no different. Now, two of the biggest rivals are Ski-Doo and Polaris, especially in their 850 class snowmobiles. Now, I've already done afterburns on both of these sleds, so I thought now is a good time to do a comparison on them.
The world is spinning and I'm dizzy staring at the stars. I left the pages in my schedule, but they're falling hard.
Now, when it comes time to choosing a winner and a loser on this, I'm going to be upfront and tell you right away, I'm not going to do that. That would be impossible between these two sleds. Sort of like choosing which child is your favorite one and telling the world about it. Instead, I'm going to go through a number of details on each one of these sleds, but maybe point out which of these sleds does these details a little bit better than the other. To begin with, these two models aren't a perfect match for a direct head-to-head comparison. Now, the Polaris Matrix would better match up to maybe the MXZ-X or the TNT, where the Polaris XCR, that's not a Matrix, would be a better matchup to the XRS. But I realize this, and I'm hoping to take these differences into account with this comparo. To begin with, both these sleds are top performers and not built for amateur riders. And to realize the performance potential of either one of these rides, you have to know what you're doing, and that starts right with the setups. Each of these machines have a ton of adjustments allowing you to dial them into the way you ride or to match conditions. But compared to the Matrix VR1 or even the XCR, the Ski-Doo has way more adjustability when you take into account the new R-Motion X rear skid frame. Next, between these two machines, there is no question which one is the warmer of the two to ride. Even equipped with an aftermarket windshield on the new design of the Matrix chassis is noticeably better. From your hands, to your body, to your head, to your helmet, air management is better on the Polaris. In cold temperature, there is no question which sled I'd rather be on. Connectivity is also very similar between these two models if they're optioned correctly. Now, both Ski-Doo and Polaris systems can be Bluetooth enabled to connect to your smartphone. They have mapping functions and the displays can be configured the way you want them to be. But I think the Polaris has it with the 7S display and the Ride Command feature. Either way though, I think we're going to see a lot more of this style technology in future snowmobiles. Ride and handling is a little different category to judge on. Each machine is very different to ride and suit different riding styles accordingly. The Ski-Doo seems to take a bit more effort to really get the most out of it, but if you put the work in, it'll reward you with a very planted feel to it. The 850 Matrix, on the other hand, seems to be a bit more of a lively ride experience. It feels lighter and more responsive, and therefore your body English seems to go further. It's actually pretty hard to tell which one of these machines would be faster on the trail because both are extremely quick. However, the more animalistic experience of the Polaris makes it feel a bit more exciting to ride. The Ski-Doo is also very sensitive to suspension tuning, even more so than the Polaris. Get out of your window on the XRS here and it either gets harsh or develops an understeer problem. For me, I've already got a few hundred clicks on this sled, and so far I've taken a lot of the preload out of the front spring on the skid and backed the compression dampening off quite a bit all the way around. I find I can now make significant changes quick with the remote torsion spring adjuster on the running board and fiddling with the compression settings to chase conditions. This thing is working good for the way I like to ride, and it's very predictable on the trail. If I was heading to places like New Brunswick with fast sweeping corners on trails that are impeccably groomed, I would probably take an inch or two out of the ride height and suck up the limiter strap to help keep that inside ski planted when railing fast curves. You have to remember, the XRS is designed for jumping and taking on the biggest whoops out there with a suspension that feels a mile deep, and it's delivered to you this way. The tall suspension does come with a sacrifice of high-speed cornering. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Spend time tuning your suspension and your snowmobile will reward you for your efforts. The Polaris Matrix 850, being more of a GT machine, has better initial setup for performance trail. Even the XCR version is a little tamer compared to the Do. The Matrix is definitely softer, but in a more realistic tuning window. It also transfers weight quickly, hiking the skis way up in the air with just the slightest lip on the trail. The amount the chassis pitches can actually be a bit of a problem at night when you're trying to see what's in your light just in front of you. It either points up at the trees when you hit the gas or right down at the trail in front of you when you're on the binders. It's fun though, and I like it. Lively is a good way to describe the ride experience of the Polaris, but it's controlled liveliness and the chassis responds well to your body English. I really like the controlled chaos of it all. It's also got what feels like more power on top compared to the Skidoo, so I like that better too. Now, the Skidoo does hit harder and backshifts more aggressively when down low, which does take some getting used to at slow speeds or in mundane situations like loading your sled on the trailer or pulling up to the gas pumps. With any speed at all though, this trait of the Skidoo is a non-issue. Another detail I like on the Polaris better is the brake system. It requires less effort and has a satisfying noise to it, which is not only fun to listen to, but also something you can use to let you know if you're braking too hard when trying to be just on the threshold of locking up heading into a corner. The Skidoo's disc is down on the drive axle, and it just doesn't give you the same feedback. It's still very good, it just takes a little bit more effort. Now that is all about stopping, and I know the big question between these two machines is all about going, so I'm going to answer that right now. There's no question, the faster machine is the Polaris. Now, I can already hear the steam coming out of the ears of you Skidoo fans and your fingers banging away on the keyboard to disagree with me on this. But again, between these two specific snowmobiles, there's just no question the Polaris is just faster. What I don't have is a radar gun readout to back up that statement. It was just me and one other fella out on the ice with no cameras around having some fun. But it didn't matter if it was a drag race or a roll-on or top speed. We even switched between sleds. At the end of the day, the Polaris was always just a little bit quicker. But that was our results on that day between these two specific machines, so your results may vary. I'm not asking for forgiveness here by saying this, and frankly, I think top speeds are basically irrelevant. Who rides at top speeds all the time other than riders who live for radar runs? Now, if you are that person, you'll spend time tinkering with your machine to make it better anyway, so stock numbers are just that. Plus, if you're serious about absolute velocities, you Skidoo fans would probably not be starting out with an XRS. For me, it's about the overall package, and both these sleds are excellent snowmobiles. Choosing which one is the hands down best is absolutely impossible, and I said that off the top, I wasn't going to choose. However, if I was going to choose, I do like the suspension of the Skidoo, but I also like the power and the feel of the Polaris. So I guess if I was going to choose one between these, I'd combine them together and go with the Polaris XCR. But that's a me issue, and you can completely disagree with me if you want.
It's hard to know what is real, gotta follow what you feel. Running in a go, but have a pocket full of zeal. We keep the motor humming, doesn't matter what you steal. Just a couple music chefs trying to cook a next meal. Playing all these bars, little stranger than Mars, and accumulate scars. Driving hours in the car, the future is ours. I can tell by the stars, they don't seem so. It's hard to know what is real, gotta follow what you feel. Running in a go, but have a pocket full of zeal. We keep the motor humming, doesn't matter what you steal. Just a couple music chefs trying to cook a next meal. Playing all these bars, little stranger than Mars, and accumulate scars. Driving hours in the car, the future is ours. I can tell by the stars, they don't seem so.
Coming up after the break, we're headed to Accelerated Technologies to talk about hardcore suspension setups with the Guru.
STV is brought to you by Motovan, for the love of power sports.
Snowmobile suspensions are getting better and better all the time, but there's always room for improvement, especially if you're a guru. So up next, we're headed back to Accelerated Technologies to do a deep dive into suspension systems and setup.
Accelerated Technologies got into the snowmobile market probably around 2010, and very passively at first, looking at our own personal machines, and then we quickly started to have great success in getting them to really perform and handle better, and then the customers just kind of went from word of mouth, and then we started working with the OSM and Snowmobiler TV, and it's just been snowballing the last 5 years especially. We joke that we could almost do snowmobiles 12 months of the year now. It's been a fantastic ride. Typically, a customer will, with their second or maybe their third year with us, they'll say, okay, I'm ready. I've learned the last year how good this machine could be, and now I'm trying to make a change and you tell me I can't, so what do I do? And we look to the Elka Sport Kit. The Elka Sport Kit has the ski shocks have compression and rebound has sadly been lost on most OEM packages, even the premium packages from most suppliers. And then the rear shock absorber is a stage 4 Elka as well. It's compression and rebound damping. And then the stage 2 center shock is a rebound only shock. And that's a great kit for the dollar that gives them complete adjustability of the whole snowmobile. If the bumps start to get choppier on a Sunday, we've been on those railway lines, and the bumps are really high frequency, well, we can open the rebound up and let the machine stay in the top of its travel where it's comfortable, and it's not beating their backs up, and they're not all over bouncing all over the trail. So that's the heart of the sport kit is once the rider has exhausted the OEM setup and they're ready for more and they want to learn, and they might have taken a couple of years to get there. A lot of people, they're afraid to touch anything, and we've had those customers come in and say, you guys put it where you think it should be and I'll never change it. And we say, I get that, but let's talk for half an hour. And I guarantee you at the end of that conversation, we'll give you maybe 2 settings, like we do in the road race program when the rider rides at Calabogie or Shannonville, 2 very different racetracks. We will offer 2 different clicker combinations. So once we start to give them examples, they go, oh yeah, I can handle that. I can do that. We talk about rebound. When we're on a billiard table smooth trail, and we get that right after it's been groomed, we can slow the rebound a couple of clicks, and the machine becomes very stable and very predictable to our inputs. It's more like a race car at that moment in time. But then if we get that rebound slow enough so that the machine's not pitching and rolling all over the trail, and then you get on to turn down a trail that's all beat up, the rebound can then be too slow. So we encourage them, hey, hop off, grab the knob and open it 3 clicks and get back on, and it'll be awesome. And so once we kind of give them some examples that they can work with, the light bulb generally goes off, and in terms of acceptance, and I can handle that, I'll do that. Generally, they're very, very happy once they step into that realm of adjustability on making the best of it. So.
Coming up after the break, we continue with Accelerated Technologies to look at the development of their next level suspension goals.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Best Western Hotels and Resorts.
Halliburton Forest has been a partner of ours where we drive up there, we park at their beautiful parking lot. But yeah, and then we'll have Mark Wilkins, he's our key test rider. Mike Ferguson is one of our engineers that we have on speed dial between Mark and I constantly, and we regiment a test procedure. It's not, what should we do now? We're going there quite often. We're testing with 2 or 3 riders at the same time. The last time we were in the forest, I had my wife Jen and my daughter Alyssa, and we were working from stock forward, and they were testing different limiter strap positions, different OEM spring settings, and we were exhausting them and then changing to the Elka package, just so we had that, we knew that this was a move forward, an improvement over stock. And then I've got Mark on the other side of the trailer. He's a true professional with what he does every day with his position. World champion with Hyundai Motorsports. That's a pretty high caliber guy to have on board evaluating what we're trying to do, and he's fantastic at it.
Yeah, so John and I and our friend Mike Ferguson have been working on developing a package for the skidoos, specifically with these Elkas, just to get the most out of it. So, like in race car language, it comes down to tenths, to beat your competitors where it's so competitive. Things like shock tuning and getting the right spring package and, really getting the setup right is the difference maker for, whether you win races or you don't. So, on the trail, it's obviously a little bit different with, the focus being on, performance, but compliance. And, obviously we're not racing, we're out there, having fun. But, having a great ride a lot of times, means there's a lot of different conditions with the trails. And, so you want to have your sled dialed in so that you get the most out of it, both from a performance standpoint, but also a comfort standpoint. And, so that, at the end of the day, you log a lot of kilometers and you have a great day and, you feel like the sled was gentle to you and didn't wear you out. So, in terms of, how we've kind of worked on that and developed that, it's just testing. We're always honing in on, as the manufacturers make changes, honing in on, the best balance of ride performance and compliance. And I think, it's like in racing, it's all about the best package. And, that's kind of been our philosophy is, we want to be edgy, we're race guys. And so it's important that we get the most out of these sleds, from that perspective, but, safety and, making sure that we kind of cover all the different, aspects of having a good ride is the goal. So, and I think we've come up with a fantastic package that really emphasizes, the perfect kind of balance of, absolute and outright performance to, compliance and enjoying the ride and, getting off the sled and feeling like you could ride another 1,000 kilometers.
Going this deep down the suspension rabbit hole isn't for everyone. It takes a lot of knowledge and commitment and maybe even a little help from the experts. But if you do, the ride results will absolutely blow you away. Trust me, every time I get on one of John's set-up snowmobile, I realize just how good a sled should be. Coming up after the break, I've got another Yamaha Pro Tip for you.
STV's Pro Tip of the Day is brought to you by Yamaha.
Okay, for today's Yamaha tip, we're going to talk about... Oh, shoot, sorry. I left my phone on. I got to take this. Hang on a sec, Brent. Hello? How are you guys? Oh, really? Huh. Okay. You're all right, though? 10-4. We're on the way. Send me the coordinates. Thanks, man. We'll see you soon. Hey, man, bit of things come up. We got to go. We got to stop this. So a few minutes ago, a buddy of mine called me up. He's out riding snowmobiles with his son, and he's in trouble. Now, they're okay, but one of the sleds sounds like it's broken down. And what do you do when your buddy calls you up and he's out riding and he's got a broken down sled? Well, you drop everything and you go rescue him. From the gist of the phone call, it sounds like one of the sleds had the heat exchanger ripped open when a stud came out of the track. Now, the guys made it out to the road crossing okay and found some cell service to make the call for help, so we're on the way. So the funny part about this story is when I got the call, I didn't tell the guys that I was shooting STV. We just left. So when we get there, they're not expecting to see any cameras. And the best thing about rescuing your buddy is, the bragging rights. And the best way to prove those bragging rights is to put them on TV. So that's what's going to happen. They don't know it, but that's what's going to happen. You guys looking for a ride? We didn't tell you we were going to shoot. We were doing stuff in the shop and going, this is a good story. Ken will love this. So
I should have known when you said you were coming.
Yeah.
I should have
I told Alice, don't tell him that we're coming with a camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can load up and then figure out what the next plan of attack is.
Yeah, I just talked to the Skidoo dealer in Perth.
Yeah.
They don't have one, of course.
No, but there's enough people to figure out how to fix that if you want.
If I can ride her home, that's perfect.
Ken and Corey in the truck, we're gonna head back to my shop because I think I can repair that heat exchanger. And if I'm successful, I can get these guys back on the trail to continue their weekend ride.
I think there's another good hole right there too. Yep. 2 big holes.
All right, give me about half throttle. A little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more. Okay, hold her about there.
Yeah, think it needs more?
I don't know. It's one of those things, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It was broke, we fix it. So I think that's her. We can put the top back together and yeah. And as soon as you get to the end of the laneway and I can't see the taillight anymore, you are on your own. The end result looks a little bit like bubble gum plugging the hole, but the repair held the vacuum test, so I'm gonna call this job done. What could possibly go wrong? All right, where was I when this started? Oh yeah, Yamaha's pro tip of the day. When your friends call for help, you go get them. Hey, thanks for joining us this week on Snowmobiler Television. Now, earlier on in this show, we took some time out of our shoot schedule to go and rescue a buddy who is stranded on the trail. Remember, whenever you go out for a ride, plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time.
STV is brought to you by CKX, wear your passion. Schaefer's, specialized lubricants since 1839. Best Western Hotels and Resorts. Ready to get away?